Hello, welcome to Deep Dive. I'm Kevin Benedict, and I want to thank all of you guys out there for joining us today. My guest today is Joe Pascaretta. Joe, thanks for joining us.
Kevin, it's a privilege and honor to be here. Thank you for having me.
Now, Joe is the Vice President and General Manager of Infor OS. And Joe, that's kind of a new title, isn't it?
It's a brand new title, yes. We're very excited about it.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so a little bit about me. I'm from Detroit, Michigan. So, I always say gasoline is in my blood.
Okay.
And I was an entrepreneur by trade, so I started out with owning my own business and got into several small to medium-sized businesses. Was actually a customer of Infor and then came on over to Infor as the new GM of our Infor OS business unit.
So tell us, Joe, what's all involved in Infor OS? So you're the Vice President and General Manager. Talk to us about what's involved there.
Yeah, so a lot of what we're doing is we want to create this business unit as a way to help organizations really digitally transform what they're doing on a day-to-day basis. So this is cloud strategy. This is bringing data together. And what we've done is we've packaged up our Infor OS platform, which stands for Operating Service. A lot of folks get that mixed up. As a way to help organizations transform their businesses by bringing all their data into one place. So it's everything from having an API integration layer to a data lake, and then bringing it together and saying, okay, how do we innovate with customers? So it's really a nice package of a digital gateway.
So let's talk about that. A company like Infor, you guys have probably acquired all kinds of companies over the last few decades even, haven't you?
Absolutely, yes.
So you're bringing in all kinds of cool tools. You focus on a wide variety of different industry solutions as well. So you're saying is all that data from all the different parts of the business need to be brought together before real digital transformation can take place. Is that what you're saying?
That's exactly right.
And why is that?
Well, what we feel, or what we see in the market is a lot of organizations want to innovate. They want to go and digitally transform their business. But the only way to really do that, in our belief, is by having the data together. And there's a couple of things around that. One, having a cloud strategy is essential. So okay. Boston Consulting Group, BCG, coined the notion of speed is the new scale. Mm-hmm. So by having the data in the cloud, that's critical. That's mission critical. The second thing we're finding is a lot of CIOs have to start thinking about their organization different. So we were talking a little bit about, instead of a 1 to 2 year deployment strategy, having 30, 60, 90 day deployment strategies is critical. So really rethinking the way the IT department is run, that's mission critical as well. And by doing that, having an innovation layer on top of that, once you have the data together, that's the critical part. We really feel the data is gold. And, one of the ways we're able to do that at Infor is we have this OS platform that can really take businesses to the next level, tie into any system, no matter if you're hybrid, on-premise, or a full cloud deployment strategy, you can really bring that data in together.
So, Joe, let's talk about the notion of speed. Digital transformation really is responding to kind of new interaction points with digital customers. They're coming more and more digital. Their behaviors change rapidly. Product demand changes rapidly. Companies, in order to keep up with that, have to fundamentally organize themselves differently in their IT infrastructures and all that. And that's for speed. And as you're pointing out, there's that foundation layer where you have to have some basic parts put together in order to be able to respond quickly. And it sounds like Infor OS is part of that.
It absolutely is, Kevin. And, I think one of the things, we're thinking about, so Infor operates in over 20 industry verticals. So take healthcare, for instance. Mm-hmm. We understand that a lot of hospitals are running on-premise systems, mm-hmm. that they will remain on-premise. And we get that. We totally understand it. So we believe the future is more of a hybrid cloud environment. We think that's going to be critical. And being able to tie in that data into one place, into a data lake, we believe is the right approach. But not just bringing the data together, having a data governance model put in place as well. So that way it's structured data, it's nice and clean, for lack of a better term. Yeah. Having it together, that's how you innovate. What good is an app that's pulling in bad data or siloed data? That's not how you're going to be able to leverage new technologies like AI, machine learning. Everybody's talking about that. But what everybody's forgetting is you have to bring the data together. That's mission critical. Mm-hmm. We think at Infor, we're one of the only enterprise software companies that that have an end-to-end digital gateway in the cloud that can pull in systems from on-premise, hybrid, and full cloud type deployments.
Interesting. So talk to us about what digital transformation really means to Infor. So when you're talking to customers, what position are you coming from when you talk about digital transformation? And what do you see as the hardest part that your customers face?
That's a great question, Kevin. So from our perspective, we like to keep it simple because you hear the notion of digital transformation. A lot of folks think, Uber, and they start thinking about Netflix, and they look back and say, well, I'm a mid-level SMB manufacturer. I can't become an Uber. My business is manufacturing nuts and bolts, or, maybe I'm a hotel chain in hospitality. They're never going to completely transform from a digital perspective. But how do you enable the customer experience to be better, the employee experience to be better? And we think of it in two ways. One of them is automation and differentiation. So what are the things we can automate with tools and technology? So take the back-end ERP, take a supply chain system. That's all the automation tools that enable the employee to do a better job. So that's number one. Number two, we really think from how do we empower humans? So not necessarily replacing humans, but how do we use technology to take the employee experience to the next level? And that's by giving them the data they need. That's by giving them a personalized experience. And that's allowing them to do their job better. That's really our belief. So this year at Infor, we're all about empowering human potential. And we really think technology is a way to do it if you do it right.
Oh, terrific. But let's now switch from digital transformation within your customer base to actually digital transformation at Infor. Because, all of us companies, it's like the mechanic whose car doesn't run because he never gets around to fixing his own car. Here, we've got like 150 people in our video team, yet we don't properly use video to communicate all the things our own company does. But at Infor, you guys have acquired so many companies. That must be a real challenge just to internally look at all that and say, digital transformation. Ourselves, we have to be involved in that.
That's right.
Just talk to us about some of your thinking there.
Yeah, that's a great question, and that's a great point. So number one, the first thing we did through these acquisitions is we had to unify the UX and UI experience, the user experience across the applications. And number two, one of the things we're doing at Infor is we're actually leveraging our own tools. So what better than a 15,000 person organization to leverage our own tools to give feedback directly to the developers and to be able to integrate all these systems together and leverage them as an employee base. What better way? So we're taking advantage of our own technology and pushing it to the next level. So that's one of the ways us as an organization are evolving. From our approach, we have a cloud-first strategy. So we're very closely coupled with Amazon Web Services, AWS, as our strategic partner from a cloud perspective. So we're going to market with them. We're in together with it. And that's another area we're able to innovate is around the cloud strategies. And from a customer perspective, they're able to take advantage of this, again, through our approach and our offerings.
Got it. So when you're talking in general about digital transformation across customers, industries, and even yourself, what have you seen are some of the biggest, hardest challenges companies face in their journey through digital transformation?
I think there's a couple of things. One, definitely the change management is definitely a key portion of it. People. Yep. Convincing the board, convincing the CFO that we need to fund this. This is not something that's going away. I've been out in the field. I've heard CEOs stand up in front of their executive staff say, we might not be in business in 5 years. And these are some major organizations. So convincing the staff that we have to rethink the methodology, rethink the way IT is planning, and just rethink the organization in general. How do we interact with customers? How do we interact with suppliers? Needs total transformation. That's number one. Number two, so that's one of the key challenges. Number two, we believe the infrastructure. You have to rethink the infrastructure. It can't just be all on premise. You have to start thinking a cloud strategy. And how do you get there? And one of the things that we like to believe is it's not a big bang approach. You can have a prescriptive, programmatic approach to getting to the cloud. And that way it's not as scary. That way you can celebrate successes along the way. And that way you can exploit the power of the data.
Oh, very good. So industries, you guys sell into what kind of industries?
All kinds of industries, over 20 industries, automotive, So take manufacturers, mid-level, large manufacturers, all the way to hospitals and healthcare. We actually have the #1 integration engine in the world, Cloverleaf. So we're working with health systems, major global health systems, hospitality, you name it. Supply chain's a big key area of what we're doing.
So of those 20 industries, which ones are the kind of the leaders of the pack, and which ones are kind of industry, or I should say just global laggards in their adoption of digital transformation?
Yeah, Kevin, that's an interesting question. So what we're finding is obviously on the retail front, those are the more pushing the envelope.
Yeah.
We have strategic relationships with the likes of Whole Foods and some very large names in the industry. And then from a laggard perspective, what we're finding is it depends on the industry, but we're shocked to see in some industries, we're seeing some very forward-thinking innovation happening. So, for instance, in healthcare, and it really depends. Some manufacturers are a little bit afraid to go to the cloud. So it just really depends on the organization circumstances.
Okay. So the retail, you're seeing, I imagine banking, there's quite a bit as well.
That's correct.
Okay.
Now, banking presents a whole other challenge in that, some of the financial institutions that we work with don't necessarily believe in a third-party cloud. They believe in their own cloud. So that presents some challenges from a software vendor perspective. And how do you interface? How do you get that data together when you have their security team saying we're not tying into anybody else's cloud? So that's a very interesting focus area.
So Joe, three recommendations to leaders out there on how to approach digital transformation. What would be your 3 points of advice?
My 3 points of advice would definitely be one, start rethinking the way your IT department works today. You really have to start there. You have to think of them as the innovators, as the backbone and catalyst for change within the organization. That's number one. Number two, it's all about the data. You're going to hear me harp on that all day long, but by having the data's gold, and that's going to be critical. If you want to innovate, you want to leverage these new thinking technologies, IoT, AI, mobile, custom home pages, and different applications, you have to have the data together. And number three, you have to have a cloud strategy. And again, it doesn't have to be a full cloud strategy. It can be a hybrid. We believe majority of the SMB market, majority of manufacturers, and majority of our customers that we see are going to have some sort of a hybrid model. So really having a cloud strategy is critical.
So bringing all the data together in one location facilitates a lot of the emerging technologies out there.
That's correct.
Artificial intelligence, machine learning, automation, chatbots, you name it, all of that have to have the data in one location, and it has to be normalized, and it has to be clean, it has to be good. So talk to us about, where you see all these emerging technologies and how do they relate to Infor?
Yeah, so a lot of times what we see is organizations wanting to innovate. They want to build the next generation app. They want to build some sort of a customer experience, let's say a portal, supplier portal, or something that's going to take their business to the next level, drive more revenue. And a lot of times we'll see them leverage some of the global solution integrators or some outside development firms to build a world-class app. But what good is a world-class app without powerful data connecting to it? So from our perspective, we want to be that digital gateway for our customers, no matter where you're at. If you're on-premise, completely on-premise, great. We have a solution that can tie that data together, bring it into a data lake, and then you can innovate on top of that. So you don't have to go ripping and replacing systems necessarily. Again, from an API perspective, we're really believing in this headless economy. If you think about the next 5 to 10 years, if you do it right, if you have the right digital platform, it doesn't matter what you're running on the back end. It's going to be all about that experience. And we think about it from 4 perspectives. One, the customer experience. That's obviously mission critical. But also, what about the employees? How do you make it every day you walk in, Kevin? How can we make it a better experience for your people every day, day in, day out?
Absolutely.
You might have business analysts. You might have, folks, on your management staff that have different needs of what they're trying to get out of systems. So how do you make it a personalized experience? That's something we believe in is mission critical from digital transformation. The third piece of it is your suppliers. So every organization has people they're working with that help empower that business. So how do we make that a better experience? How do we get more money together? How do we grow together? And finally, if you're the CEO, once you have all this data, once you have all of this transformation coming together, how do you get better visibility into your organization? That's BI and analytics through and through.
Absolutely.
But again, it goes back to the data.
Absolutely. So let's look ahead. What emerging technologies do you kind of read about today that most excite you?
So definitely from an AI machine learning perspective, I believe that's really the future of where we're going. And of course IoT, that's another area that we're very excited about. But definitely AI is an area that gets me excited, because if you look at a lot of times I'm a frequent traveler, so I'm always interacting with new organizations and, have different needs depending on the weather. And, what I always like to say is, where could AI have augmented a situation, made it better for me as the consumer? So I really believe in AI empowering and making organizations, allow them to have a better customer experience. So I really think that's where the future's at. And now, again, I think some organizations are leveraging it, some better than others. But I really think that's where we're going with this. And that gets me pretty excited from an enterprise perspective.
Oh, it's going to be an interesting time. So if you and I are back here in 5 years, not in this room because we're moving to a new location, but in our new studio, we're here in 5 years and we look back, what do you think are going to be the biggest changes between today and when we're together in 5 years?
I think what we're going to see is more organizations, some that would surprise us, small to medium-sized businesses, innovating beyond their wildest dreams. I think that's where we're going with this. I think we have some incredible organizations out there that are ready to innovate, that have some unique processes that they can take their business to the next level. I think in 5 years, you and I will be having a conversation about some very interesting organizations leveraging machine learning, leveraging new apps built on top of a hybrid cloud deployment strategy. I really think we're going to see some pretty cool stuff out there.
That's exciting. Well, Jill, I want to thank you so much for joining us today.
It's been an honor to be here, Kevin. And, like I said, hopefully we'll see you within 5 years.
All right.
Let's continue innovating together and have some fun dressing up as well.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.